This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly.
After today's show,
you'll know how to upgrade your unupgradable PC.
Welcome to Know-How. It's a Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I am Father Robert Ballas here.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And what you got there, Cranky Hippo? Little corgi ball?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I don't know.
I think that's your
It's our soon-to-be mascot.
Your volunteer pillow every once in a while.
Yeah, you know, he's soft.
He's very soft, actually. Much more than a regular corgi.
I know, man. Well, I mean, regular corgis have the density of a dying sun. So
this one's, yeah, definitely not that heavy.
Not that. But we're not here to talk about corgis. In fact, we're here to talk a little bit about PCs. We know that a lot of you are getting upgrades for the holidays. Some of you may have older PCs that you're hoping to upgrade after the holidays. We want to help you a little bit with that. If you've got a PC that is really cramped, either the case is really small or it doesn't have the ports or the expansion bays that you need, we've got a couple of tips that might help a brother out.
That's right. And if you've ever pre-purchased kind of a packaged PC,
yes,
you know, one that you would find on at Costco, or you might order online, like the Acer
like
Predator.
The Acer Predator, yeah.
Typically, they're not very moddable.
No.
As far as like if you were to build your own PC.
They're designed to be really sort of the turnkey solution. You're not supposed to have to open up this case. You just buy it in the spec that you want, and then you run it until it doesn't work anymore, which might be 5 years, 6 years down the line.
But that doesn't mean you can't swap out some parts.
Exactly. Now, this particular box, I bought this when I was still in DC, so this is like 4 and some years old. It's an old box. This is still my primary video editing box. It's
what do you got
crazy
here?
Powerful. Well, it's an i7. It's got, I think it's a 980. So it's not
well, it was
crazy,
made for
crazy
Windows
fast.
8, so you're not
was made for
lying,
Windows 8, yeah. I think this one's a 32 gigabyte of memory model.
Whoa.
I did add an SSD, but other than that, it's pretty much stock.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what does it look like on the
Oh,
inside?
on the inside, bro. I'm glad you asked, Brian. It's almost as if we prepped for the show. That would be really weird.
We don't prep for anything.
We don't prep. So again, the nice, clean environment of a Predator. Now, the funny thing is, this has been constantly on. This machine never turns off, because even when I'm not in my office, this acts as a render farm anytime I'm away. I can always send jobs over here and it will take care of them for me. Nice. Which is nice, because I can edit on the road and then I just send the file, and the file will pull from the assets that are on the local drives.
Oh, cool.
Which is very cool. But look how clean this thing is. This is what you get when you properly design your case. This thing's been sitting on a floor, and yet, you know, there's dust, but it's not like ridiculous, redonkulous dust.
No, but all right. So do you have this in a very sterile room? Is that the case?
It's so not.
No. Okay, good.
Very much not.
Because yeah, usually you'll see the little dust bunnies, and it looks like a rat's nest after about a year for my PC.
Right. Now, you will notice a few things about this if you go over the overhead. First of all, this is something we've talked about a lot. It only has one PCI 16 slot, which is why we can only run one video card unless you want to run it really crazy slow. It's got some 1X slots over here. There's actually 2 of them, but we haven't really been able to use that for much. I mean, like even the M.2 Kingston drive that we wanted to install in this, that needs a 4-lane PCIe slot that you can't do it on this. I do have it fully populated on memory, but my problem is primarily this. I like storage, but I don't have anything available. I've used up all the SATA connectors. In fact, I disconnected one of the CD-ROM drives so I could steal its SATA connector.
Well, who uses CDs anymore anyway?
I know. Well, it had 2, so I'm like, okay, I can live with 1.
Yeah.
I can live with 1. But then, once I used up all those connectors, I also had the problem of there's not really that much bay space. It was really only designed to hold 1 drive, maybe 2, and then the one that you have, there's like an enclosure so you can hot swap a drive. I have all of those filled up. And this is a relatively big case. They do make much smaller ones, the slim lines. So the question, Brian, is what happens if you've got one of these cases, you've pretty much maxed out on all the bays and the SATA ports that you have, but you need to add a little bit more storage?
I don't know what I would do, because at this point I'm looking at it and the only thing I would even attempt to swap is probably the graphics card.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you wanted to add more stuff?
Oh, we're going to talk about that. That's what we got.
Oh, okay.
Just for them, because we love them.
Oh yeah, there they are. Yeah. They're in there somewhere.
Yeah, you guys are all magical. All right, so here's what we want to do. We want to look at upgrading the storage on this, but we want to keep everything in the box. Right. Don't want a bunch of drives hanging off this thing via USB or the Thunderbolt
Actually,
connection it has.
That's what I have come to. I have
that's not good.
3 Seagate like 2 terabyte drives, and they're all plugged in. And then I have the IO safe also, like a really long USB cable plugged in.
See, I can't do that because USB. I love USB for its convenience, but if you've ever been editing and then a USB drive decides to disconnect and reconnect, which it will do sometimes, it will crash your project.
Right. After it's been encoding for like an hour.
That's no bueno. That's no bueno. Now, this does have an eSATA port, so I could plug in an external SATA drive, but I wanted something that's internal. I want to be able to carry this box with me, like when we go to CES, and have all the storage I need inside. And I also didn't want to give up either my hot swappable drive or the internal rotating drive.
Okay, but what about those CD drives? Are you done with those for now?
I actually want it back.
You want it back?
I do want it back. I know, because one of them is a really good burner and the other is a really good DVD ripper.
All right.
If I ever decided to rip my legally
if you had done that, yeah.
allowed.
I mean, why would you?
By the Librarian of Congress thing. All right, good. So, how are we going to do this?
I don't know.
All right, let me show you. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to consider what our PC does have, because you can't just take any old PC from like the 1980s and upgrade it to the latest technology. You want to know how many open PCIe slots you have, because we're going to have to use that bus. We've used up all the SATA ports. We don't want to go in via USB. You need the PCIe. And for this, the PCIe are right here. There's two 1X slots. And they're really only used for peripherals. So if I wanted to hook up a card. Now, this is PCIe revision 2. You have to know this. For revision 2, you're limited to 500 megabytes per second per lane. So if I've got a 4-lane, I can do 2 gigabytes per second. But if I've got revision 1, divide that by 2.
Okay.
So 1 lane, I maxed out at 500 megabytes per second. But if it's revision 1, that's down to 250 megabytes per second.
Okay.
So you got to know that, revision 1 or revision 2. There's revision 3, which ups it even further, which is why people are getting excited, because now you can start adding in those M.2 expansion cards.
And it'll be worth it.
And you can get some like 4 gigabytes per second of transfer time. That's amazing. That's crazy fast.
And once you've had that fast of a transfer, you can't go back.
You really can't go back. In fact, there's this dichotomy inside this computer, because I've got these SSDs that are running at 500, 600 megabytes per second, and then I've got the hard drives, which are fast hard drives, but I mean we're down to 100 or below.
Boo! Boo! Nobody wants those.
But 3, 4 terabytes of storage.
Oh, right. Is really cheap.
It's cheap, and what I needed is I needed a place to stick all the asset files until I needed them, and when I needed to work on them, then I moved them to the SSD.
Right, right. And if you happen to have a few movies that you've ripped to that, so be it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. No.
All right, so what we've got now is we've got to figure out how many open PCIe slots I've got. In my case, I've got 2. So I've got 2 slots that are available for my use. I've also got to know how many lanes I have available.
Okay.
Again, we're talking about this. You multiply the lanes by how much bandwidth you have per lane. Right. Either revision 1, which is 250 megabytes per second, revision 2, which is 500 megabytes per second, revision 3, which is a gigabyte per second.
Awesome.
It's just awesome. I also need to know, do I have any open power connectors? This is something that's often overlooked whenever people upgrade storage. No.
Yeah, because I feel like when they build these machines, it's for the exact things that they plan to put in there, not anything more.
Precisely. In fact, in order to power up this SSD, remember, I stole the power and the SATA from one of the CD-ROM drives.
Whoa, whoa.
Stop touching the rotating parts, cranky hippo. So I need something that will give me the ability to add a drive, and I need something that will give me the ability to split off power so I can power all the stuff back up, because I do want my CD-ROM drive back.
Is that dangerous? Are there adapters that you hook into this existing power supply?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna show those off. But first, let's look at the first problem. The first problem is I don't have any extra SATA connectors. In fact, I need to get a couple of back so that I can connect the disabled CD-ROM drive.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna look at is something like this. So this is the IO Crest 2-port SATA 3 PCIe 1-lane card. Alex, if you go to the link for this, super cheap. And what I like about this is it's very low profile. You can put this in the slimmest of cases, about $15, $16, depending on which third-party vendor you get it from.
Yeah.
Very easy to use. And if you take a look at this, super simple operation.
Yeah,
I've got a. This is a Revision 2 PCI 1-lane card.
So that's 500 megabytes transfer?
Tops out at 500 megabytes per second, which is perfect for us because that's all we have in there. Those are the only expansion ports we have available.
No reason to waste money on something else.
Precisely. I've got two SATA 3 connectors, but remember they're sharing this bus. So if I put 2 drives on this, I'm sharing that 500 megabytes per second between 2 drives.
So does it get split then?
Yeah, so just FYI.
But how often would you be transferring data from, I guess, from one drive to another, and then that would split it?
Well, or if you were like pulling data from both at the same time, or pushing data from the both. What I've seen people do erroneously is think, okay, I'm going to run this in a performance RAID, and I'll have 2 500 megabyte per second capable drives, but because I'm running in a performance RAID, I'll get like 750 megabytes per second. No, because it's still bottlenecks right there.
Right.
So that's why it's important to know what kind of transfer speed you can get.
Got it.
Now, if I did want to run a RAID, I would need like a 4-lane Revision 2 that would get me, what, 2 gigabytes per second.
Okay.
And then it actually makes sense to run a performance RAID. In this particular case, all I'm looking for is connectivity. What I want is one to connect to my new SSD drive and one to connect to the CD-ROM drive that I disabled. Boom, this is it, this is perfect. $16, I'm good to go.
Cool.
Okay. Issue though, I also have a problem with drive bays. I could.
Look at all this empty space you have here. You're just
I could be super janky like I used to be when I was building my own systems and like use double-sided tape.
No, really?
or like just screw it into this cage but only screw in 2. Or maybe like 1 screw because this cage wasn't designed for anything more.
And then never pick it up or move it again.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't do no.
Yeah.
That's just jank. Stop it, Brian. Stop it. But I've got something better than that. What I have is a way for you to take the SSD drive that you want to install it, and instead of putting it into the cage, what if I could put it in one of these slots?
All right, now you've got my attention.
All right, let's go to this one. You've got the link for this one, Alex. It's the SEDNA PCIe. It's a SATA 3 SSD adapter, but it keeps the SSD on board.
That's cool. That looks pretty slim.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for right now. And this is what this bad mamma jamma looks like. The first thing you're going to notice is it's also a 2 SATA expansion board. So I've got one here and I've got one here. So same issue, it's still going to bottleneck down here. So when I get to the bus, if I'm running more than 500 megabytes per second, actually it's less than that. It's closer to 400 some megabytes per second because there's overhead. There's always overhead.
Yeah.
But I have one connector here to connect to my CD-ROM drive, but then I've also got this. This is a standard. This is like one of those you would see on a docking station to connect a SSD drive. In fact, let's do that right now.
What's the other one?
Oh, well, we'll talk about that in just a bit.
Okay.
Stop getting ahead.
I'm jumping ahead.
Dang
I'm just curious.
We're trying to lay down the knowledge for these folk.
Curse my curiosity.
All right. So you've seen this before. This is one of my new favorites because it is economical.
It's an economy drive made to be an economy drive.
Precisely.
Not one that was an F-up on the manufacturing line.
This is not, well, it doesn't run that fast, so let's make it a value drive. These were designed to be value drives. This is a UV400. This particular one is 480 gigabytes. We're actually putting a 960 gigabyte version into Leo's Surface because he's decided that hard drives are for suckers.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
but he trust you with that though?
I know, right? I think he might have had something to drink.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay. But so check this out. All you have to do is you take your SSD and you slide it in. That's it. That's installation.
That's it?
That's it.
There's no, you don't have to like
screw
it in with a screw.
I'm going to screw it in just because I'm funny like that, but you don't have to.
That's almost overkill for you.
Yeah, I've like not done it before and it works just fine. Actually, I think I have the wrong size screws.
Well, then forget it.
Yeah, well, you know what?
It's a weight reduction.
We're just going to be freeballing in there.
Yeah, which is what you want with your hard drives and a computer.
The thing is, though, this is not going to work alone because there's no power. You have to power this. It's not going to be able to get powered off the bus.
Okay, is that last connector you had left out?
Precisely.
But that doesn't look like a regular power connector.
That's a regular SATA connector.
Oh, okay, it is. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So I've got a regular SATA power connector here. The problem is I'm already out of power connectors. So either I remove the power from my other DVD drive or I come up with something hopefully inexpensive that will allow me to split off my power, assuming that my power supply is enough, and I already know it is.
Are there adapters that split off?
Oh, I don't know. You mean like that one?
Okay, so there are, but then my concern is, what is this power supply's
This is It's a 500 watt, and for what I'm running, it's not a problem. Especially since this is an SSD, it's adding almost no draw.
That's true. I think, what is it? The GPU and the CPU are the biggest draws.
GPU, especially the GPU. The GPU is the biggest draw, followed by maybe the CPU, depending on what kind of CPU, and then the hard drives.
Okay.
So the fact that I'm adding another SSD, it's
not a big deal. Yeah, and it's not a spinning drive. No. Like, what if you're adding more spinning drives?
Like figure 25 watts per drive, up to 30 on startup. So yeah, that actually does make a difference. So if you go to the link for this one, Alex, this is a StarTech. It's a 2X. It's a splitter, SATA Power Splitter. $4. And these things are cheap. I always have a couple around because I'm always running out of SATA power cables. What it does is it takes, so this is like the like female connector, right, and then it splits it out to 4.
Yep.
So what I could actually do, if I wanted to do really good cable management, if you go to the overhead, rather than having these individual plugs, I could daisy chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I free up all those to do individuals.
Ah, I see.
So if I wanted to be really sort of
right, but you're not going to right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
No.
We don't have time for that.
In fact, what we're going to do is, Alex, if you go to the computer, we need to shut this mamma jamma down so we can actually do an upgrade. This, like, just to show you, this actually is my PC. This is the one that sits at my desk.
It's working. I already almost cut my finger on the CPU fan.
With a folder that says, "Don't look in here." Just
wait. I mean, we could just take a quick look, right?
No, we're going to shut this down.
So secretive.
Thank you, Windows. Windows wants me to update.
Oh, don't you want?
Oh my gosh! Oh my god! It won't let me shut down without updating.
Oh.
You are kidding me.
What if we just hold the button or unplug it? Do you care? Do you want to give it a shot?
No, because of the magic of editing, none of this is going to make it into the show.
Just rip the power cord out.
Okay, so we're all shut down. What we need to do is we need to get the card in there. We need to make sure that it's powered up.
Right.
And for giggles, I'm actually going to connect a faster SSD to this external port so that we can do a comparison. We want to see if this is actually going to tap out the bus.
Just for giggles.
Just for gigs. Really, for gigs.
We're having fun with this.
We're totally having fun. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and add the power connector here. I've already got my SATA connector. This is already plugged in. This is installed. Everything I'm doing is just either support or for the second drive, like so. Boom. So that's what it looks like. It's going to go in. This is the connection to my PCI. Actually, here, you can see it better here. Can you want me to get that? Yeah, get that in there.
Not a lot of space to play with here.
No, it's a little tight.
Bottom or top slot?
Oh no, it's got to be this.
Top slot.
That one's already opened up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Come on,
Brian.
Brian.
The fun part.
Come on, Brian.
I got this. I got
Brian.
it. Just give me a sec.
They told me you were awesome at this.
It's supposed to go in completely sideways, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's better if it's diagonal, and then we have to cut the slot. That's that's what you want.
Right. That's what you're looking for.
Maybe I should unplug the power.
Wait a minute. What's that burning smell?
It's just bacon. Don't worry about it.
It does smell good.
Snap the clips this time.
Yeah, I still feel bad about
Yeah, you
that.
broke his antique Mac.
What Mac was that, Al?
It was like a 2C, right?
SE.
SE?
Oh,
You got it?
SEs are a dime a dozen.
Are you sure it's actually in? Because it looks a little misaligned. Did you already break it, Brian?
No.
We just got this thing.
No, it's fine. It's supposed to be sideways. Hold on. All right.
I'm pretty sure that's not true.
It's because you got those cables in there. Hold on, I got this.
I mean, you used to do this, right? I mean, this used to be your... I think it's the scotch. This is why you don't drink scotch before an episode. You got to get the tab in there first, Brian.
Hold on. Can I flip this power? You don't care.
No, you can't. It's a one-way.
All right, never mind. Because the bottom of this cable is pushing against the graphics card heatsink.
I know this works because I did it last night, Brian.
You see, this is the impossible PC.
But you see, you have to get the lower tab in first. If you don't get the lower tab in, nothing will fit. Like this.
That's
See?
your technique?
Boom.
What? Oh,
What?
I did all the
What?
hard work, and
Oh,
you just took the
what?
credit. Oh, look, I did it.
Oh, what?
Boom, in.
Yeah.
Good problem.
Hey, good job, Brian. Good job. Great job. Great
I think
job.
that deserves another
Yeah,
sip of
good
whiskey
game.
then.
Good game. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and split this off. So I've got my power connector here, and then I'm going to do this. And remember, when I get home, I'm actually going to make this a lot neater. But because we're on know-how, we don't care about neat because we know our
we
people.
just want it to work.
We just want it to work. It just has to work.
If it works, it's a success on this set.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull. We all know this one. This is that HyperX drive that I like so much. This is crazy, crazy fast.
It looks too good to hide away in a case.
It does, doesn't it? And we're going to hook it up as the second drive and will allow us to have a little comparison on whether or not you should buy a value drive or should you buy a super high performance drive when you go to upgrade. And this is normally how that kind of upgrade would look. It would just basically hanging on by its cables.
This is how you should leave the PC after you've upgraded. Just leave it out like this, the top open and everything.
Brian, one of the things that we need to do is we need to talk a little bit about this idea of the value drive, because we've turned around. Here on Know How, we used to tell people, don't do value. Value is silly, value is stupid, don't do it because it's just a tiny bit more to get the super performance part.
Right.
But we kind of changed our tune, because if value drives are done properly, and if they're designed to be a value drive, then that excess performance doesn't really matter.
Right, and I don't think the qualm we ever had with value drives before was the speed of them necessarily. It was, how valuable is your data?
Yeah, we didn't want.
Are you willing to lose it if that drive fails?
And let's be honest, there were some value drives out there that were notorious for they go really fast until they crash and die, and then all your data is gone.
Right, and a lot of times that's unrecoverable.
Precisely. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this all set up, and in the meantime, why don't we talk to our friends over at Kingston to find out how it is that you make a real value drive.
We're back here in the TWIT workshop, formerly the Pixel Core studio area, and we're going to talk about something which is slightly a verboten topic on Know How: value drives. I know a lot of you have written and asked me about what drive would I prefer, and I always have a trio. I like Kingston drives, I like Intel drives, and I like Samsung drives. But something that I always say is I don't trust value drives, because you could pay a tiny bit more and get a much better product. I'm here with Cameron Crandall, who's going to explain what exactly value drives are and whether or not you can trust them. Cameron, I'm sorry to say this, because I know Kingston has some decent value products, but I just didn't feel right spending 20% less to get a product that I felt was inferior. What is the thing about value drives?
Well, I think that the best thing to keep in mind when you're looking at SSDs is you're buying from a reputable manufacturer. I think that's more the key. I think you want to look at, when you're going to look for an SSD to buy, you want to look for the application, look at the application it's going to be used in. One of the things we know really well is the typical client workload or the home user workload, which you can imagine is very, very light. So we don't need to spend a lot of money on an SSD that's built for maybe, say, a server application or higher write endurance. We really have SSDs in the marketplace today that are going to far outlast the useful life of the system that you're using. So you can really pick an SSD that's priced correctly for the application that you're going to use it in. But my overall advice, as long as you're buying from a reputable manufacturer, you're safe.
In a previous segment, you talked about what went into an SSD, specifically about the flash, how there are multiple bins that manufacturers have to choose from, and you have to go through the vetting of those individual pieces, and then the controller. And both of those can really affect the performance of a product. But I'm assuming that when you have a value drive, you take from a slightly less expensive bin and maybe use a controller that's not as advanced?
Yeah, that's for that segment, right? So let's talk about controllers really quick. Several years ago, everybody wanted to use controllers that had many data lanes, right?
Right.
8-lane controllers, but now we can get, because the controller technology has gotten so good for the client workload, we can get away with lower cost 4-channel controllers versus using these high performance 8-channel controllers that we don't need. And also in a lot of cases, a drive that performs maybe 100 megabytes a second less than a higher performance drive, you and I in our application use, we wouldn't see the difference. Now on a benchmark, sure, we would see the difference, right? But we're not always living in a benchmark world, right? So, the difference between 400 megabytes a second and 550 megabytes a second, you and I probably aren't going to notice that in office applications and surfing the web. It's if you stand it up in a benchmark, then you're going to see the performance difference. So yeah, you can spend a lot less on a drive that performs at 400 megabytes a second than having to have the fastest 550 megabyte a second drive. Does that make sense?
It does. And again, it's back to the whole plan your system. If you benchmark your applications and you're pulling 300 megabytes per second, well, then you don't need the top of the line. You
Correct.
can go with a value drive. But if you've got an application that is stressing what SATA can do, then yeah, you're going to take advantage of the higher performance.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about specifically what Kingston has in the value category, because you've done away with the V series, and you've replaced it with a new value series.
Correct.
That I understand is actually doing very well.
It is. So, our UV 400, it's our ultra value, and with that drive we use TLC based flash, and TLC flash is at a much lower price point than the typical MLC.
Why is that? Why is that?
We can store 3 bits per cell, and so we've got higher capacity in a smaller package. One of the shortcomings of TLC flash is performance. Because we do have to program 3 bits per cell. We slow down.
So higher density but slower performance.
Slower performance, but we can mask that a little bit. So what we do on the UV 400 is we carve out a small area of the TLC flash and we configure it for SLC, and we use that as a buffer. So,
interesting.
So what we can do is we can make that TLC drive look and feel like an MLC drive, and with the controller technology advanced the way it is, we get a lot of reliability out of TLC, where in the past everyone was very fearful of going to TLC because they thought the drive was going to wear out prematurely. But again, we've got the ability now to perform at a high level, and get the expected performance out of the SSD that we want, and then also have the life expectancy of the drive for that typical client workload. And that's really important because, again, what you and I do on our computer every day is very, very light. So even with a lower endurance TLC drive, we're still going to have a drive that's going to outlast the useful life of the system. So we've got the ability now to really buy SSDs that are designed for what you're using them for, and not having to spend extra money on something you're not going to use.
Well, Cameron, thank you very much for the information. I can't promise that I'll start recommending value drives, because I'm still, I love the idea of paying really just a small amount more and then getting the top of the line. But maybe it's time for me to start doing a rundown of value drives, because if they can be as dependable as you say they are, and you're absolutely right about this, if I need to source my parts according to their use, then maybe value isn't such a bad thing.
Yep.
All right. Oh, if they want to find out more about Kingston, more about you, where should they go?
To kingston.com, to our SSD page, and at our SSD page you can find information on all of these topics.
Here, folks, on Know-How, maybe value is no longer a bad word.
And of course, since we did that interview, I got a couple of these UV drives.
Yeah.
They were my primary storage for when I was in Rome, and they worked really, really well. I'm actually not just surprised in the performance, but now I understand if you've got a well-made value drive and it is X amount less than the high performance part, sometimes it's what you want.
Yeah, definitely. It's why waste the extra money for bottleneck?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I've always assumed this is a value show, so that's no longer a bad word,
I mean,
right?
because we're value hosts. Really. We're like,
Yeah,
no, just
extreme value. Yeah, like 3-day-old sushi value.
precisely. Yeah. You know, just not quite enough to kill you,
Right.
but will make you sick.
Exactly. Use sparingly.
Actually, we've got a really good example. We are doing an upgrade of Leo's Surface Studio.
How did you trick him into letting you do that?
He was drunk.
Okay, yeah, that must have been the case.
Yeah. But what we came down with was, like, it's an i5.
i5, I think it's like a 760M.
It's 8 gigabytes of memory. It's not super fast. So
and that's a big high-res screen for that stuff.
Taking one of these HyperX drives, these Savages, which does the crazy fast transfer rates, that's overkill. You're never going to be able to use that. So the value drive in that particular case makes sense, especially since it's like $60 less.
Yeah, I know. Well, when you say $60 less, though, I'm like, that's not that bad. And look how pretty it is. I'm a little distracted by the color.
In your particular case, the 60 is fine because it looks pretty.
I guess that is a whole game, though, right?
I don't even know you anymore. I All right, let's get back to the upgrade. So we've got this thing installed. It's powered up. Alex, if you go over to my screen, so this is the computer. You'll notice that the 447 gigabytes, so 480. This drive, this is the UV drive. This one right here, this is the terabyte big HyperX Savage drive. Well, we're not using the Savage drive, but what we're going to do is we're going to benchmark both of them so you can see a comparison.
Right.
I'm using Crystal Disk Mark, which I love because it will just isolate the subsystem. Unlike a benchmark like PC Mark 8, which is a composite, I can focus in on something that I want to take a look at. In this particular case, I want to look at the storage subsystem.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at this drive first. We're going to run Crystal Disk Mark. What this does is it actually goes over a series of tests. So it's going to look at sequential read and write. It's going to look at 4K block. It's going to look at non-sequential. And then it's going to look at big, like 4K block type stuff, the larger 4K. And as this goes, it's going to be writing through that bus, that one-lane PCI bus. And I've told it to do 50 megabyte files. You could tell it to do multiple gigabyte files, but that would be bad.
Take a long time, right?
That's not. I did a benchmark of this yesterday. It was about 400. So obviously something's happening. There's something that's. I'm probably being crypto locked right now. Whatever it's going to be. But my read, my write. That actually hovers around 430. That's the typical storage speed that I'm going to get for that.
Okay.
And then the following numbers are going to be a little bit lower because we start doing non-sequential stuff.
Right,
and,
which is a little bit slower.
Right, because you have to worry about random access effect, which is huge on a hard drive, not so much on a flash drive. You don't get a huge difference. Now, what I'm looking for is because this is going to be a secondary drive. This is not my primary storage drive. This is not my operating system drive.
Right.
As long as I can keep these values somewhere near 400, I'm happy because I can edit off of anything above 200.
Yeah, you're not going to get stuttering and that sort of thing.
Precisely. Whereas when it's, and this is important, especially when you're using a nonlinear editor like Adobe, every time you switch away from Adobe and you come back, it refreshes the files. So if you're editing off of a hard drive, it will feel like it freezes for like a minute because it's got to recheck all the files.
I hate that.
If it's an SSD, this comes right back.
Instantaneous.
Almost
okay.
instantaneous. So these are my final results. If I had to run this 4 or 5 more times, the average would be about 430 read write.
Well, it doesn't help that you're being crypto locked too.
I know, right? Okay, now let's do the other one. So this is the super expensive Savage SSD. I am going to get higher numbers on this, but the question is how much higher and is it going to be worth it?
Right.
If I had a PCI, a 2-lane PCI slot available for me, I could max out these drives.
Yeah.
But at PCIe 1, revision 2, I just can't do it. 500 megabytes per second with the overhead. It's just, I don't have enough of the bandwidth, the overhead, to allow me to really stretch the legs.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we look back, so 349. So remember, I said the first drive is going to hover around 400. So both of these are obviously being affected by some process that's running on my computer right now. But you'll notice it's not a huge performance gap.
No, not at all.
And it's really going to be about the same. And the reason why is neither of these drives are the bottleneck. The bottleneck is the bus.
The interface from the drives to the machine. Which
actually, look at that.
This is an older machine.
Well, it scored a little bit lower on the 4K. Oh, how about that? Yeah. Yeah. So again, consider this when you're looking at the upgrade. Like you,
right?
I am so tempted to get the fastest thing possible because I'm going to drop that in my next system.
Right.
But by the time I get my next system, there's going to be a new fastest hotness.
Well, the metaphor for me that comes to mind is why would you buy a Ferrari if all you're doing is driving around residential streets?
Unless you just want to look good.
Yeah, which is what it comes down to, right?
True.
You're going to pay $60 extra so that you have that red flag.
It does look much better.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, look at this. That is too sexy.
Right?
Right? That is, but it's in the case. So.
It's in the case, so it doesn't matter at all. But it still bugs me.
Now, so if you go back, Alex, you'll notice, I mean, my results, yeah, they're different. The Savage drive is faster in some aspects. It's actually slower in some aspects.
Yeah.
And again, it's not the drive. It's going to be the card. It's going to be the bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And remember, we are trying to upgrade an unupgradable PC. This will all be inside the case, and I will have my CD-ROM drive back. I will now have a second SSD that I can use for editing straight off of. It's all self-enclosed, and I did all of this for what, $15 to $30 interface card,
right,
and between a $100 and $300 SSD.
Yeah, so for fairly low price, other than the SSDs that you were going to purchase. You have upgraded this machine beyond what it was capable before, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And really, we were just using this because this is the machine I have available for me, because I wasn't going to pull out one of my servers.
Right.
But especially if you've got like one of those slimline PCs that absolutely has no more mounting options.
Right.
This is a great way to do it.
And I feel there are a lot of people who just, when they first buy a PC, they just want it to work, you know? And then as time goes by, they realize that they might have other uses for it, and then they might feel limited, but there's always an expansion.
Precisely. One last bit of advice, and that is, if you are going to go with one of these interface cards, you might want to pick up one of these brackets. You know, get from like Newegg or from Tiger Direct. All it does is it takes a SATA connector and it turns it into an eSATA connector. They're the same thing. I mean, they really are the same thing.
But then this way you can plug in an external,
Precisely. So if you have one of these PCs that's limited, use one for the internal SSD that you just wanted to add in because you needed more internal storage.
Right.
But then give yourself that option of being able to plug in a super fast, ultra reliable connection to an external hard drive.
Right. And I think the key point is, once you have this all set up like this, don't organize the cables. Don't try and mount the hard drive. Just put the case top on.
Well, I mean, look,
pack it away.
If I push down real hard and then I put the case in,
It
that
almost
should hold
fits.
everything there, right?
Right. If the case top is popping out just slightly, don't worry about it. It's fine.
You are an evil man. evil man.
If it works, let it be.
Folks, that's it for this episode of Know How. Happy holidays for you. It's the 22nd today, and I'm hoping that you're all heading on your way to be with family and friends. It's been a great year, and thanks to you, Brian. You are a bro among bros. We're going to be at CES together right about now. We're heading over.
Yep. CES. We're going to have a lot of fun, I hope. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, and happy Hanukkah to you, Alex.
Actually, he's a Festivus.
Yeah, happy Festivus to you, Alex.
I celebrate whatever I'm invited to.
Didn't you just get like a super special, like, what was that? A cake from a rabbi?
Oh, yeah, he got bread.
A piece of challah bread.
Yeah, it was fresh. It's cake to us.
You know, the thing is, he left it on his desk just because he wanted to make Kara jealous.
I think he did, yeah. He was like wafting the fumes and stuff.
It did smell good.
It did.
Yeah.
When are you going to get that Christmas tree?
No,
wait.
No, I don't.
Oh, wait, he doesn't do that.
Folks, don't forget, we know that this is a lot of information, but we want to make it easy for you to get the show notes. By the way, people have been asking where the show notes are. The show notes are literally the episode page. If you click the episode, the show notes are below it.
But where is the episode page? Oh, wait a minute. It's twit.tv/KH, right?
There you go. Alex, could you show them, please? There you go. So you click that, and if you scroll down, you get the
Wait,
links.
why is this one so many episodes ago?
That's weird.
No,
I don't know.
It's a time machine. But you get the links down there for everything that we included in the episode. Those are the show notes, folks.
You know why? Because this is the best example of show notes that we've had in a while.
For a long time.
Usually it's like 3 words and a
Get
link.
lazy.
So
We're sorry about that.
sometimes it's just links to stuff. Yeah.
But again, where is that?
Twit.tv/KH. And you know what? Not just show notes, but subscription subscription links and download options. It's got it all.
It helps us, folks. If you want to keep seeing Know How, spread the word. We love reaching new people. Bring them over to twit.tv/KH. Get them to subscribe, or on iTunes, wherever it's going to be, on YouTube. We love to see more audience. We love to see the show grow. And the more that you help us, the more cool projects we can do. Like, for example,
What?
we do have a custom PC build coming up.
Custom?
Yeah.
Custom?
Custom.
I like the idea of
Yeah,
that.
there we go. Also, don't forget that we've got a social media group on Google+. Just go to Google+ and look for Know How. There's a little bit of a request system. You're going to have to ask to join, just to keep out all the spam accounts. But once you're in, you get access to over 10,000 Kitas. That's our know-it-alls. People who are in every step of the maker journey, from beginners to experts. If you want to come in and ask a question, if you want a new project, or if you've got knowledge you want to drop on all the young Kitas out there, again, go to Google+ and look for Know How.
Cool, but that's not the only place that you can find us. If you want to see how we prep for the show, which we
do prep. Seriously, there is prep.
Yeah, we have to take naps before we prep, for
do,
sure. Or you want to ask us a question directly, the best place to do that is on Twitter, and I am at cranky_hippo.
And you're going to find me at PadreSJ, and you're going to find the third member of our team at ANELF3 when he's not getting challah bread. Holla!
Holla!
So like always?
Yeah, holla! He ain't no holla back.
No,
no.
he's more of a gefilte fish guy.
Oh, that's guy. Dr. Mom is the only one I know who loves gefilte fish.
I couldn't do it. I tried every year and I couldn't do it.
I know I'm going to offend some sensibilities, but for me, gefilte fish, take a fine piece of soft, well-prepared fish and then pour ammonia all over it.
And then put like a little carrot on top for garnish.
I'm sorry, folks. This is just not for me.
Not me.
Now that we've offended an entire tradition, I am Father Robert Vallis here.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And now that you know how,
Go upgrade it.
ho, ho, ho.